All right, calls for the probe into VBS and Vele Investments are expanding and mounting. The DA and the Federation of Unions of South Africa wants the investigation to include two Public Investment Corporation officials, Paul Makola and Ernest Nasani.
Fedusa wants them to be declared delinquent, while the DA says they must not only face criminal charges but also pay back money they received illegally. The pair is accused of turning a blind eye at the looting that collapsed VBS Mutual Bank. Weekend reports allege that they both received over 5 million rand payments while working as non-executive directors on the VBS board. They were representing the PIC at the time. VBS Bank was placed under curatorship in March following cash flow problems. All right, well, joining us now in studio to discuss this, we have Fedusa Secretary General Dennis George. Thank you so very much for coming into our studios this morning. Welcome to you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be on your television show.
Well, firstly, you've called for the PIC to declare its former head of legal counsel, governance and compliance, Ernest Nasani, and former director Paul Makola to be declared delinquent. Explain this call to us, please.
Yeah, you see, what tends to happen is this. People then found through various investigations. In this case, there was a forensic investigation, and these investigations unearthed a number of, serious allegations to support, that steps should be taken. And then what people would normally do is just to tender their resignation immediately. And then they think they can then from there move on to become a professional or a director with another company. And therefore nothing will happen. But we say that the PIC has a fiduciary responsibility because those people were employed by them and they were serving in a position of a duty of good care, on the boards. And what they did was they turned a blind eye when they saw these things are happening. But this is not only just that at VSB, but it also happened in Steinhoff, where you saw other directors, under their watch, they're sitting there, and then they see these corrupt activities happen, and then shareholders and investors are losing billions of rands.
Are you calling for the same at Steinhoff?
Yes, what we are calling for them, first of all, to apply to have these people declared delinquent directors. Number two, that they have a responsibility to lay criminal cases with the police. And number three, the asset forfeiture unit, must also kick into place. So you will have three forces moving forward in one go. Because what we want to see happening is this scourge that emerged in our country from corruption and fraud and theft must be stopped, because it breaks down the fabric of civil society. And it also stagger investment, because people are scared to invest in the country, because around every corner you have to pay a government official or a certain person a bribe to get approval for your particular, whether it's a mining license or whether it's application for a business or something like that. And that's the reason why we believe investment can flourish, but we need to curb corruption in a big way.
Mr. George, one of the biggest issues, and I think you talk to people being scared to invest in the country, but the issue, I think, is a little bit bigger than that when it comes to VBS Bank. I mean, we're at a point where we're trying to have black banks, and we're trying to move on from there. For you, what happened at VBS Bank, what concerns you the most in terms of that regard, that we were trying to move towards having a black-owned bank and so forth? What issues come out of this?
Look, the critical issue for us, and this is well recognized, that this economy is run by white people in South Africa. And when black people try to enter into the economy, things are being made very difficult for them to enter. And also when they need to get approvals, these people put serious obstacles and constraints in the way. And what we want to see happening as a vision for Fedusa, we want to see as quickly as possible the full participation of all South Africans in the economy, and the PIC has a responsibility to assist those black companies and black entrepreneurs that comes up with ideas, that wants to buy stakes, that we must give them the necessary support. But this whole thing about corruption detract us from doing the right things through the PIC. Because remember, the PIC only not just involve public servants' money, but it also involves money from you and from me, because we contribute towards the UIF fund. And the UIF funds sit with a surplus of about 120 billion rand, and that money are being invested. And that was the reason why we feel that they should also help black entrepreneurs and also black emerging small businesses in our townships, to participate in the economy.
I mean, it seems to me that, Ernest Nasane and Paul Makula are sort of the face of this, what happened at VBS. But, that level of corruption, obviously they didn't act alone. I mean, for the fact that it's been reported that 5 million rand, each gentleman received 5 million rand, but out of that, more money was probably lost. So what more will be done to clean up altogether? Because we can't have just these two gentlemen being, the ones that are punished, which of course they do have to be. But what more will be done to unearth what I suppose is a lot more corruption in this particular sector?
Sure. Look, we are only now touching the surface of the iceberg. Because, the iceberg, you only see the top, the
That's
bottom
right.
parts of it. But the investigation and the forensic investigation is continuing, to unearth all these kinds of deals. And the people that are responsible must be brought to book, not only these two gentlemen. But for us, it's not a personal matter. The fight against corruption is a fight against the system. It's a fight, even you and I also get confronted from time to time. Whether it is a police officer that's expecting a bribe when you're at a roadblock, or when a person applies for an ID and you try to speed up your things, So those are the things that we need to deal with. And I think it's important that for the Reserve Bank and for the PIC, to keep their hands firmly on this particular investigation, to make sure that we unearth all the things, and then we must also ensure that the depositors are protected, and that we also need to make sure that we keep this particular bank intact. So if there's going to be a takeover, that we restore good corporate governance, because good corporate governance supports the principle of strengthening investment in our country.
And just lastly, I'd like you to take us through really, the gentlemen, Makula and Nasane, are said to have neglected their fiduciary responsibility. And I mean, just for the general public, if you can just go through that for us, the meaning of that in layman's terms, really, and what company law says. I mean, I read your statement and you were referring to, the
Section 126.
That's right, of the company law, and what it refers to and what it says on issues like these.
Yes, look, first of all, Section 126 of the company law lays the foundation under 4 key principles of impropriety, in terms of people have to take the duty of care. They have to operate in such a way that they make 100% sure that they act in the best interest, of the company. So everything that you do, when you do it, you have to do it in the best interest of the company. And that's the reason why this phenomenon was mentioned, that they turn a blind eye. They don't actually complicit and so on. So they get a bribe just to become soft, not to become intrusive in the investigation, and that is important. And that's the reason why we felt it's necessary for FEDUSA to stand up and to call for our national organizations like the National Prosecuting Authority, the Asset Forfeiture Unit, and for the police to become more proactive in dealing with these cases of fraud and corruption.
And has the PIC responded to your call?
Look, we've issued a statement today. I'm having a meeting later on today with the PIC. And from our side, we firmly believe that they will do what is right in the interest of good corporate governance.
All right. We'll obviously hear from you then what came out of that particular meeting. Thank you very much, Dennis George, Secretary General of FEDUSA, of course, talking to us about FEDUSA's calls for former PIC directors linked to VBS Bank to be declared delinquent. Thank you, sir, for your time.